So, yeah, that's my intro. Hey guys, how's it going? Today we're going to answer a very important question. It's going to be on how do I know if it's a good general or not? That's the question that a lot of people have. They want to know how do they know if it's a good general or not. So, um, we're going to answer that question. I'm going to find a purple general that I'm going to purchase for the sake of this video. For the sake of this video, I'm going to purchase Barrack. So I just wanted to go over uh, something real quick with you guys. You want to only use historic generals. You don't really want to use any non-historic generals for many reasons. Like, I'll give you an example. You go to the subs. If you do not use a historic general, you will not be able to open up this third slot and the city buffs, which is dealing with training speeds. This can only be opened up with a historic general. Non-historic generals cannot open up that buff. And this is training speed. It doesn't really matter what city, what culture you have for your sub. This third spot is going to be a training speed, and it could only be opened up with historic generals. This is one of the important reasons of having a historic general. So of course you're going to want to know how you can tell the difference between a historic general and a non-historic general. Historic generals come with this gold stat skill. Non-historic doesn't come with any skills. You can apply a skill to the non-historic. You can apply 4 skills to them. Give an example here. Once you put 1 skill, he opens up, and you could add 3 more. With the historic generals, you can only add 3 skills. You would think, well, why not be able to add 4 skills instead of 3 skills? We will cover that, and we will be able to go over the difference between the legendary general, which is the purple ones, and the epic general, which is the gold ones. I do want to let you know that the legendary generals, the purple generals, historic purples are better than non-historic gold generals. It may seem like a gold general is going to be better than a purple general. A legendary general is going to be, a epic general is going to be better than a legendary general. It may seem that way, but it isn't. This is because of this skill that comes along with the historic general and the abilities historic generals have that non-historic do not have. For instance, what I showed you inside the subordinate city. So, like I said, this gold box here, the first skill comes on the general, and this is how we know that general is a historic general. This is how we know. So you want to know how to be able to tell if that historic general is a good general or not. So we do want to go and explain that the difference between a legendary historic general and a epic historic general, purple being legendary, epic being gold, is that the historic the legendary general only have 3 specialties that will open up at level 25. When you get that general to level 25, he will be able to utilize specialties. I'll give you an example. I have Vladimir the Great. As you can see, these specialties he's able to use. They're locked because I haven't unlocked them by simply utilizing. You probably always wondered what these things were for, and this what they're for. They're for upgrading the skills. So his is still locked because I haven't used them, but a purple general or epic general only have 3 of those specialties. Epic general, the gold ones, have 4. They have 4. And this is the difference between a legendary general and a historic general. There's a very important difference between the two. So what you want to look for when you're trying to pick a general is you want to first look for the type of general it is. When you go into your tavern, you can look at the generals, go to portraits, you can look at the different generals, and you will notice that there are certain wordings that describe what type of general it is. I'll use Isabella, no, not her. I'm going to use Queen Bodica. I'm going to use Queen Bodica, right? So Queen Bodica says she increases the city ground troops and mounted troops health power by 15% and in-city mounted troop attack by 30% when general is the main city defense general. The main city defense general means the general that is on your wall. When the general that is on your wall, the defense general. When she is that, as you see, I have her, and I have her as my main city defense general. When she's on your wall, she gives these extra buffs. That means when she's not on your wall and you utilize her for attack, she does not give these buffs. That's very important. You need to understand that because she is specifically used for war. So you don't want to use her for anything else. This limits her. However, the stats are very good for her. So this limits her, but the stats is good for her. I'll give you another example of a general who's limited, but the stats is good for them. For what you want to use them for. It won't let me show you his stats. I have no idea why. It's interesting. We will go over to Empress Wu, and we will see that she is a mayor general. A mayor. Anytime you hear that word mayor, that means that she is to be used in, or he is to be used in a subordinate city. Now, she increases the construction speed by 75% in subordinate city when the general is the mayor. So why is this important? Because reading the item description will tell you what type of general it is. Other generals, they have boosts, but they boost only applies when they are duty officers. Some boosts only apply when they are attack generals, meaning that they can only be used in an attack and be able to get the benefit that they provide. I believe this is the case for Nero. No, it wasn't Nero. It was Napoleon. Yes, Napoleon. He increased his troop attack by 10% and increased siege machine attack by 20% when general was leading the army to attack. That means he only does this when he is attacking. Why is that important? To give you an example, we read the description of Edward the Black Prince. His description says increases your ranged troop attack by 25% and reduces enemy mounted troops attack by 15% when general is leading the army. When the general is leading the army, he does this. This means that this general is more versatile. If you put him in your subordinate city, he will do this for the troops that's in that city. It won't do it for your main city troops because he's in your subordinate city, but he will do it for the troops that's in that city. If you attack with him, he will have this benefit. If you put him on your wall, he will still have this benefit. And if you send him out to march with the army, that army that he's marching with, when he's in the rally, his troops will carry this benefit with them. It won't increase to the leader of the rally, but it will increase the troops that goes along with him, the troops that he's leading. This is because the word description says when he is leading the army. So when you're looking at the description of your general, these terminologies are extremely important. I'll give you an example of another general. The terminology becomes extremely important. We're going to go with John of Portugal. When you look at his stats, it says, increase range troop attack, defense, and health power by 5%, and range troops training speed by 20% when general is the archer camp officer. When general is the archer camp officer. So as long as he is the archer camp officer, he will increase ranged troop attack and defense and health power by 5%, and ranged troops training speed by 20% when he's this archer camp officer. So that means when I'm sending out my other general on attack, not only will my troops get the buffs that goes along from that general that I am sending, as long as John of Portugal is my archer camp's deputy, that general will also give the benefit that John of Portugal gives, which is the extra 5% to ranged troops, health power, attack, and defense. All three of those stats will be increased by an extra 5% on top of what they're getting from the general that is leading the army. So he doesn't have to be sent out to benefit your attack. Neither does he have to be sent out or put on your wall to benefit your defense. So if someone is attacking you, he will still give, and you have a general on your wall, he will still give your troops that 5% bonus of health power, defense, and attack, as long as he is the archer camp's deputy. See how that makes sense? That makes a lot of sense. And this is how you increase your attacks and your defenses with generals while not utilizing the general in attack roles or defensive roles. So what you need to do in order to know if a general is good or not is look at the description of the skill that he comes with and see if that skill is a beneficial skill. Sometimes the skill, it may benefit, but it's not really that great. Some prime examples. I don't even have him. Let's see if I can find him. He's a well-known general. I hate to laugh, but I see people they utilize the general. They build him up quite high. I believe he's European. Alexander the Great. That's Frederick the Great. Alexander the Great. Maybe he's under others. A lot of people build this Alexander the Great up, and because he increases the march speed by 35%. Like, when you're attacking somebody, you're going to go 35% faster. And that's all he's going to do. And he's going to go attack somebody who probably has a defense general on their wall that is going to destroy him. They're going to destroy him. All he did was increase the speed of the troops. This is not a general that you want to be utilizing to attack with. You know what I mean? Maybe utilize him if you want to speed to a tile to collect some, you know what I mean? Or you want to beat somebody to a goblin or something. You might want to use Alexander the Great because he increases the speed by 35%. But you don't want to use him to attack a city. Sometimes it may look good that you can send more troops. So people will use a general that will increase the march size by 10%, 15%. You can send 1 million troops. You know what I mean? If you can send 1 million troops and you increase the march size by 10%, okay, you added another extra 100,000 troops to that march because you're able to send 1 million. You know what I mean? Or you're able to send 500,000, you added an extra 50,000 troops to that march. You know what I mean? So that's what people want to do. But meanwhile, the person you're attacking, he's going to decrease the defense of the troops you send in by 15% because of the general he's using. So one of my favorite generals in this game is, and this is what we're going to use to show you some beneficial stats, is Wei King. Wei King, he reduces enemy ground troops and mounted troops attack by 15%. and increases your mounted troops and ranged troop attacks by 15% whenever he's leading the army. Whenever he leads the army, whether you're defending or you're attacking, he does this. Now, when it says that he reduces the enemy anything, this is called a debuff. This is called a debuff. And when it says he increases, it means this is called a buff. So the best generals have both buffs and debuffs. Those are the best generals. The ones that have both buffs and debuffs. The highest stat that you can get on any general is 35% increase. That's the highest stat that the skill that he comes with. You can increase that, but that's the highest you can come with. So I want to give you some extra information on some of these skills that will help you. I will use Washington as a prime example for this. Some of you have already encountered this. It says, increases mounted troops attacks by 35% when general is leading the army. The reason why having multiple buffs or debuffs is more important is because when it says it's just a buff, for instance, the 35%, which is the highest, you can't get any one skill that's going to give you more than that. You can put skills together and make it higher than that, but not one skill. The reason why this hampers a general is because while that 35% is high, because the skill is at 35% already, and that's the only skill that's on it, is no debuffs with it, or you know what I mean, it's just that one buff. You cannot add more attack. You cannot add an attack skill to Washington. Some of you have already encountered that. You cannot add an attack skill to him because it already has an attack skill there. I'll give you an example using what's her name? Cleopatra. Because Cleopatra, her ability, she grants you a 20% double item drop rate from monsters when she's leading the army. You cannot add the luck skill to her. You cannot add the luck skill to her. It says the general has already had a skill at a higher level. You see what I'm saying? So you cannot add the luck skill to her because that's the only skill that she has on it, and it is buffing that ability. So when you go to add a skill of similar design, it won't allow you. This is the same for Washington. Since it's only buffing the attack, you cannot add mounted attack to that general. You can add any other attack, range, whatever, but you cannot add a mounted attack. So you want to have the general skill having multiple things. I'll give you an example with Wei King. We see Wei King, he reduces enemy ground troops and mounted troops attack by 15% and increases your mounted troops and ranged troops attack by 15%. So now since he has multiple things going on here, and even though he's increasing the mounted and ranged troop attack by 15%, I can still add the mounted troop attack to him. I can also still add the ranged troop attack to him. And the level 4 mounted range, ground or siege is 25%. So that means on top of the 25%, the top of the 15% mounted and range attack increase, I'm adding an extra 25%. That means that now effectively I added 40% attack to this general for mounted and another 40% attack to the general for range. Also worthy of note, there is no debuff skill that you can add to a general. So having a debuff in itself is a great big deal because you cannot add debuff skills to your general. So his ability to be able to reduce enemy ground troops and mounted troops is a special case on its own because you cannot add a debuff to a general. You only can do things that buff generals. You cannot debuff generals, only buff generals. So when you're looking for for generals, you want to look for generals that have both a debuff and a buff. If they don't have a debuff and a buff, you want to at the very least not have something that it just increases one particular thing. Like, you don't want it to just increase mounted attack or just increase ground defense, because then you won't be able to add more to those areas. These are very important points. So lastly, I want to go over something that's very important. And in order to decide fully what's a good general and what's a bad general, you have to understand troop types and their abilities and their usage. So mounted troops are attack troops. Their primary ability is to attack. Their attack is always higher than the rest of the competition. The a tier 12 mounted mounted is higher in attack than a T13 range. A T12 mounted troop is higher in attack than a T13 range, and vice versa all the way down the line. That's very important. So whenever you increase in mounted, what you want to focus on is just driving that attack as high as possible. You want to drive that attack as high as possible. His health power is good. His defense is good. But adding to those things doesn't increase the value on a mounted. If you can increase it, that's good. But it doesn't add to the real value of what this troop is used for. When it comes to ground, their value is in defense and health power. They can outlast any other troop with their defense and their health power. Even defeat other troops, because it'd be so hard for other troops to kill them. This is why mounted target ground first, because they have so much health power, they need to be destroyed. They're the counter to ground. They go there and they take out ground first so they can begin taking out the other troops. So what you want to do for ground in order to help them against mounted is give them as much defense and health power as possible. This makes it, gives them a little bit more versatility, whereas with mounted, you only really want to increase their attack. And with ground, you want to increase their defense and their health power. You don't want to increase ground attack because their attack is weak, and even increasing it is not going to make it really strong enough. If you increase the attack by 50%, it's still going to be a weak attack. When it comes to range, any benefit you can give to them is going to help them somewhat. It's because they're the weakest troops in the game. They have the second highest attack, but it's not really that high. You can boost it up, of course, with all the stats, the boost that you can have to them, this, that, and the third. They have the lowest health power and the lowest defense in the game. So they die pretty easy once you get past all the ground. They can get to the range. They die pretty easy. Siege works very well against range. Siege weaponry works very well against range. People don't know that. Siege work very well against range. So you might want to increase siege attack. You don't really want to increase siege health power or defense, because it's not going to matter. They get hit one time by any other troop, they're done. You know what I mean? So you don't want to really increase their health power and their defense, or focus on things that increase those things. You want to focus on things that will increase their attack, because they take out range. Siege are a counter to range. I know they mounted. I know ground take out range, but siege takes out range also, because they're attacking range while mounted are attacking ground. So for mounted, you want to focus on generals that will boost their attack. You want to focus on things that boost their attack. After you put an attack buff on attack skill on your general, then you can add the other things like health power and defense if you want to. You might be better off adding speed and march size after putting attack on your general that has mounted. But if you add more health power, add more defense, this is still good as well. But you probably better off adding march size and march speed if you want to, or other things that will benefit the general in other ways. When When it comes to ground, you want to focus on putting on health, power, and defense. You don't really want to focus putting it on attack, because the attacks are going to be weak no matter what you do with it. On siege, you want to put on range and attack, so they could take out the ranged troops much quicker. And for ranged troop, every little bit helps. Like they die. If they get attacked, they die. So firstly, you want to put attack, because they're attacking range. I mean, they're attacking mounted while mounted attacking the ground. So you want to increase their attack. But after that, it really doesn't really matter what you do for them, because their health power is still going to be low and their defense is still going to be pretty low. You can add more to it to make it a little bit more, but it's still going to be pretty low. You add more to it, it'll help them sustain attack from the siege much better. But you know what I mean? It's still going to be pretty low. So when you decide on your generals, these are the things you want to focus on. You want to focus on what does that. You'll see the Undead General. Someone mentioned to me recently inside my alliance. Oops, didn't mean to go black on you guys. Someone mentioned to me recently inside my alliance, which was a very, very good suggestion, was putting the Undead General on the subs, which is a very good idea, because the general that's inside the sub only affects the troops that's inside the sub. So that benefit will definitely benefit you. When you send your general to an alliance war, it only really benefits your troops. It does not benefit the overall rally. It only benefits what your troop does. So if you only send one troop to an alliance war just to be a part of the war for whatever reason, your general debuffs is not going to work in helping against wherever you guys are attacking the other troops. It's only going to help your troops. I actually did some tests with this earlier to be sure, because I didn't want to say things and be incorrect. So let me see, which attack is this? I went along with one of my clanmates, Danaka, and he sent his Washington, which is a mounted general, which is 35% boost. It was a very good general, a very, very, very good general. We'll go over some of the stats that he had. This is a very good general. The 35%, the troop attack that comes along with it. He also had the birds of prey, which is dealing with increasing the mounted. But when you go ahead and you check the report, you will see none of those things helped inside the attack that we did together. Oops. Where's that attack? None of those things that helped in the attack that we did together. It did not increase my this is me attacking them alone. My mounted attack was 472%. When we attacked them together, that's when we attacked it together, 472%. No, that was me alone, actually. This is when we attacked it together. It was still 472. He did not increase my mounted attack at all. He didn't increase at all. So it doesn't increase your overall attack. It increased only his troops, because it's when he's leading that army that he's leading it to. We did this. We ran the test just to be able to see. I ran this test in another alliance as well to be sure to see if the boosts were applying. So they don't. So you gotta take that. You gotta take that in consideration. But so when you're looking for a general, you're looking for a general based off what type of general you're looking for. If you're looking for a defense general, then you want to make sure if you're going to put them on your wall, the best defending troops are your ground troops. So you want them to focus on increasing the health and the defense of your ground troops. This is how you decide how to pick good generals, based off of what you're going to use them for one, and based off of what skill he comes with. So some people are going to want to know, how does the battle stats affect the general? This is a very good question. You know, the attack here is 109, the defense here is 105. This determines how high of attack and defense the general is going to be able to get. Sometimes it can go pretty high. You got to, whatever you get it up to, you can cultivate up to about 500 more than whatever that stat is. So if I cultivated this general at a level 1, I can get him up to 609 attack, and that's not including as you level him up, put other buffs on him, this, that, and the third. So that just means that the higher this attack and higher defense is, the higher his overall attack and the higher his overall defense will actually be able to become. That's what those stats do. You know, so this is pretty much what it comes down to. It comes down to that skill. This is how you determine if a general is good or not, based on that skill. Made this video a little long. I'm sorry that I had that little dark spot. Did the video about 4 or 5 times, and I definitely want to get it out there. So you guys have a great day. Oh, and subscribe.